Hello everyone, welcome to Everyday Christian, helping you know God through reading the Bible. My name is Doug. I'm really excited about the topic that we're talking about today. I want to talk about God's goodness. And the reason I'm excited is because it just comes natural to me to talk about that because I see a lot of God's goodness in the world. And I know that for some people it's hard to see his goodness. Some people are angry with God, some people are atheist or agnostic or skeptics. And a lot of that comes from the pain in their own lives. Maybe you have a lot of pain in your life, and it also comes from seeing the suffering in the world. And I understand that, but I hope that you'll stick with me through this video and maybe get a different perspective. Now, just so you know where we're going, the first few things that I want to talk about have nothing specific to do with the Bible or anything like that. So if you're not a follower of Christ, these are things that every person, whether you're a Christian or not, enjoys. And then we'll get into some more things that are more specific to followers of Jesus. But as we're talking about God's goodness, let's start with the world that we live in. So our world is more advanced than it's ever been in history. We have phones, which you may be watching this on, or laptop or desktop, whatever you may have. We have planes, trains, automobiles, the ability to travel like never before, all kinds of advancements in technology and medicine, and in every way we are very, very advanced. And a lot of people might not think about this, but all the things that were needed to invent and create all these things have been in the earth since the day that God created it. Since the day that God told Adam and Eve to rule the world. His intention was that humanity would rule this earth, and of course that got a little bit messed up by sin. But he put all these things in the earth, and then he gave the intelligence and the motivation in humanity to find and discover these things. Kind of like maybe a father would hide Christmas presents on Christmas Day for his kids and say, go find them. And then they go and they search and they figure out where things are. And it's so exciting when they find those things. Well, God has put so much in this earth for us to discover and invent. So all the things that we have that we may not think about attributing to God actually came from God. So let's think more about creation itself. So you don't have to go far to enjoy the beauty of creation and see the goodness of God in creation. You just have to step outside of your house, take a breath of fresh air, look at the clouds, feel the cool breeze across your face or the warmth of the sun, or appreciate the snow, depending on, of course, what time of year it is or where you may live. And if there's a park nearby, you can see all kinds of different flowers and all these things. You know, everybody says stop and smell the flowers and stop and appreciate beauty. And I totally agree with that. I try to do that. I try to be mindful of every sunrise and sunset that I see and thank God for a brand new painting that he gives us every morning and every night. So his goodness is just all over creation, not to mention animals and, you know, places like Niagara Falls and the Grand Canyon and the ocean and just thousands of places in the world that are just filled with his beauty and his goodness. So in creation, God is proclaiming, I am good. Now, I do want to mention, too, that as we continue to talk, not all of the things that we're talking about here can be enjoyed by every person. Whether circumstances or disabilities or whatever, not everyone can enjoy all the things that God has given us to show us his goodness, but everyone can enjoy the goodness of God around them. So the point is just to be mindful of that. But let's think about our senses. God gave us food, and he could have just made it something that we eat and sustains our life, which it is. But did he have to make it taste so good? What's your favorite food? On the top of my list would be steak and potatoes, and then there's all kinds of different fruits and vegetables and different ways that things can be prepared. Once again, all the things that God has put in the earth and the intelligence and the will and the creativity to combine these things in different ways to make things taste so good, and the smells that come along with it, and our sense of touch, even as we taste our food, it's the textures make a difference in how we enjoy our food. Lots of different ways that we feel and touch things physically that are just showing us the goodness of God. And of course, the beauty that comes through our ears. Music is one of the most amazing things to me. God has created this world in a way that vibrations come together in a certain way to harmonize, to sound beautiful to the human ear. Our brain translates that harmony into something beautiful. And even more than that, it touches our hearts and our souls. Music is a really powerful and really amazing thing that God has given us to show us his goodness. And there's all kinds of simple things we can think of. A cool breeze on a hot day, or a warm blanket on a cold day, or some hot chocolate, a good night's sleep or a good nap in the afternoon, family and friends. And like I said before, not everybody gets to enjoy all these things, and perhaps family and friends is a sore spot for you. because lots of people live with lots of broken relationships and feel lonely. But the reality is, we know, even if we don't feel like we have good relationships, we know what a healthy family looks like and healthy friendships looks like. And that's something that God has given humanity. And let this be an encouragement for you if you do feel like a lot of these things that you're not able to experience. I view these things as arrows. So like if you're in a big building and you're trying to find a certain room and you walk down and you see the sign and there's room numbers and there's arrows pointing to this set of rooms is over here, this set of rooms is over here, and you have to follow the arrows. I view all these signs, and of course there's many more that we didn't talk about, as arrows from God pointing to eternity. Because eternity is where God destroys the world as we know it and recreates it as it was, without sin, without pain, without death, without loneliness, without broken relationships, where all of his goodness is poured out on his people in full measure, with nothing hindering it for all of eternity. So I look at these things that we enjoy so much on this earth as just tastes, arrows pointing us to the right direction, to eternity with Christ, or just tastes, like, maybe when somebody's cooking a meal and they're like, hey, come taste this for me. And you get just a taste of what's coming. That's what all these wonderful things that God has given us to show us his goodness are, just tastes of what's to come for those who belong to Christ. So far we've talked about things that everybody can enjoy. So let's talk about things that are a little bit more specific to those who do follow Christ. And I hope that if you're not a follower of Christ, you'll stick with me till the end of the video. So the most precious thing that shows the goodness of God to those who follow him is his word, is the Bible. It shows us the way to eternity, to the bliss of enjoying God's presence and God's goodness in full measure for eternity. It shows us how to know him now. It is a standard of truth in a world of lies. This whole world I've heard recently described as a house of cards built on lies, and it could crumble at any moment. And we can see it crumbling right before our very eyes. So in a world of lies, what could be more valuable than truth? And there's only one source of truth, pure truth, and that's the Bible. Jesus says if we build our house, meaning our lives, in the sand, meaning the lies of the world, it will eventually crumble and fall. But if we build our lives on the truth of his word, the storms will come and our house will stand, because we are built on the rock, on the truth of the word of God. The only way that a life can be sustained in this world of turbulence and storms is being built on a foundation of truth. And the Bible is the precious gift and the gift of his goodness that he's given to us, that we can build our lives on that truth. Another way to look at it is a world full of people stranded in a huge ocean and just grabbing onto pieces of driftwood. And I put it that way because the idea of absolute truth is under attack in this world. The idea of relative truth is promoted. Well, you can have your own truth, whatever you believe is true for you. And that, of course, puts us in the place of God, which is the original sin. But we could talk about that another time. Right now, just get a picture of people grasping on desperately to pieces of driftwood as they float in the ocean while a boat is coming through and offering rescue to people. And the people look at that and they say, I don't want anything to do with that. That's absolute truth. I'm going to hang on to my truth, which is just a piece of driftwood. There is absolute truth, and absolute truth is what we need in this world of lies. And that's one of the ways that God has showed us his goodness. He has given us the truth in this world of lies. Now, all these are ways that God has shown us his goodness, but if that weren't enough, in the Bible, he literally point blank tells us that he's good, because I believe he did that because he knew that we would doubt, because this is a difficult world. It is a world of lies and suffering and pain. So it is easy to focus on the suffering and pain and lose sight of God's goodness, or maybe not even see it at all in the first place. So he flat out tells us, I am good. So let me read a few scriptures. Genesis 1:31, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. Psalms 31:19, oh, how abundant is your goodness, which you have stored up for those who fear you, and worked for those who take refuge in you, in the sight of the children of mankind. Psalms 34:8, oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. Psalms 100, verse 5, for the Lord is good, his steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. Psalms 107:1, oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his steadfast love endures forever. Psalms 119:68, you are good and do good, teach me your statutes. Nahum 1:7, The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. He knows those who take refuge in him. Here's a couple from the book of Lamentations. Now remember, Lamentations is a book of lament, hence the name. So they are people, the Israelites, lamenting the loss of their country. And even in that difficult situation, they are saying God is good. Lamentations 3:25, the Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. Lamentations 3:22 through 26, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. And Romans 8:28, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good to those who are called according to his purpose. So for those who love Jesus, even the difficult things of this world, God will work for your good. And one more, and this one points to eternity. Revelation 21:2 through 4, and I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from a throne saying, behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, for the former things have passed away. And we are living in the time of the former things. So the suffering and the pain and the hurt and death that we experience now will be no more. Actually, I do have one more. It's Romans 5:8, and this is the most precious gift of goodness that God has given us, salvation, the ability to escape this corrupt world and the consequences of sin, which is death, ultimately eternal death. Romans 5:8, but God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. While we were still messing up his world, Jesus died so that we could be saved from this world and from ourselves. So all of these things, all this goodness of God, we can see even in a world that is fallen and tainted by sin. So how do we change our perspective? How do we live with the goodness of God in the forefront of our minds instead of all the hurt and all the pain? First off, I would say give credit where credit is due. God created this world to be good. Satan is the author of evil. Satan is the father of lies. He is the one that has brought all this destruction and pain and heartache to the world. And we have contributed to that by our disobedience and by our sin. A lot of times people will say, why does God allow all the suffering in the world? I went to Google to help me with a viewpoint on that. So according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the world produces more than 1.5 times enough food to feed everyone on the planet. So just as God has put all the things in the world for us to discover, he put plenty of food for every person that would ever be created on this earth. We have mismanaged it. And then we say to God, why is there so much suffering in the world? Why is there so much hunger? Why do people starve to death? But he gave us all the food that we need. It's all here. So whose fault is it? First of all, just give credit where credit is due. Satan is the author of evil, not God. We have a responsibility in this because we are sinners, and we think more of ourselves than we do of helping other people. And God's goodness is still incredibly visible, and he also offers us a way of rescue. So no matter how difficult this world is, and no matter how unfair it may seem, he offers a way that in the end, we can be done with this world of unfairness and suffering and live in his goodness forever. I wanted to end with Psalm 16:2. I say to the Lord, you are my Lord. I have no good apart from you. So let's get this in perspective also. You could be enjoying all the goodness of God. You could have all the money in the world and anything you want and be able to spend your entire life in ease and enjoying all the good things that God has given you. If you don't know him, you are just using some of his goodness, but you are separated from goodness itself, which is Jesus. So if you are in a difficult situation and you know Jesus and you're not enjoying his goodness to the fullness like you wish you could, you are much better off if you're connected to Jesus, who is the very definition of goodness. All goodness comes from God. So if you don't have God, you really don't have goodness. So no matter what boat you're in, if you're experiencing a lot of the goodness that God has put in this world or not, I hope you'll realize that all good things come from God and to cling to him, to worship him, not the good things he's given us. Because everything in this world, whether good or bad, it's all going to be gone one day. And you're either going to lose all sense of goodness for eternity, or you will have Jesus, who is goodness, for all of eternity. And I hope that you will choose true goodness, that you will cling to Christ and to Jesus, that you will come to faith and repentance and cling to Christ, who is goodness, and not cling to the things that he's given us in this world. He is good, and apart from him, we have no good thing. Now, if this video was helpful, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. I would love for more people to be able to hear of God's goodness and of his message of salvation and be able to come to know him through reading the Bible. I'm an everyday Christian. I hope you are too. I'll see you next time.